Hey, what's up, GameLeapers? Welcome to the 13.7 patch notes rundown. We're going to go through exactly what the changes are the Riot have released for the current patch on Summoner's Rift. So to make sure you know what the changes are, of course, stick around for the whole video. And guys, if you want to improve at this game, because you can play the champions who are getting buffed in this patch. You're going to win, like, what, one more game out of the next 50? You're still the same player, bro. Like, who cares who you play? Who cares what you build? Build a death cap on Kha'Zix, I couldn't care less. You should be able to still carry a game if you play at the highest level. And you think I'm joking, I'm not. Do you really think the difference between, like, a challenger yasuo player and a diamond yasuo player is their mechanics? For the most part, they're going to be largely the same. What's different is how they see the game and think about the game, what they actually see on their screen. It's going to be different. We can teach you that on our website at GameLeap.com. So check out the links down below to get exclusive access to our library of content, which is added to daily by our challenger content creators. And yeah, let's get into the 13.7 patch notes. Now we will go through these in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Alistair. Base armor and health increase. This means that your early laning phase is going to be better. A little bit harder to take down in the early game for the Moo Cow. Now Annie, another support, is getting nerfed. If you're playing her in the mid lane, this really isn't going to change that much because your E or Molten Shield, the cooldown is increasing from rank 2 onwards. So if you're maxing your E first like Annie supports do, this is going to be worse off. Also, the shield amount, even though it's scaling off the same amount of AP, it is actually decreasing in terms of the base shield from rank 2 onwards again. So if you are maxing your E first like Annie support players are, it's not going to be as good. Now for Azir, is Azir better in 13.7? Well, I'm actually going to leave it to the comment section here. Does Azir feel better, guys? If you played him on PvE, if you're maybe in like OCE or one of the more eastern regions, maybe you've got a game or two under your belt already on 13.7 Azir. So are we maxing our W first? Is the base armor like actually noticeable? Do the passive changes like really mean anything? What about your Q's mana cost going up? Like, is this just completely cucking your early game? Also, the stab range going down, meaning you've got less range on your Conquering Sands? Like, there are a bunch of changes here. Are these adjustments though like kind of on the whole buffs, or are they nerfs? Now moving into the jungle, we have Graves. Your passive critical strike bonus has been increased and your ultimate's cooldown is decreased early game. This is good, right? This means if you're building some sort of thing like maybe shield bow into Infinity Edge, something like this, right? And then collector afterwards against squishy teams. But also your ultimate, the cooldown just going down is great for any form of Graves. So Graves I think will be a little bit better, but it will still largely be at around the same strength. Now Kalista is another champion getting buffed. And really like the passive buff here where it's taking less time to determine who you're going to use as your Oathsworn bond. It doesn't really matter like too much, but what does matter is the attack damage growth increased. This means that in the mid to late game, and yeah, as you just start to get more levels under your belt, Kalista is going to be dealing more damage. I think this is a really nice buff, and it will definitely see Kalista being picked again, probably more so in pro play than in just like your standard solo queue, but still, she does very well against a lot of champions in the bot lane, especially early on, because there really isn't like that many AD carries who are strong in the early game right now. So Kalista, I definitely think she'll have a spot in the meta, especially considering how good engaged supports are. Now Katarina, another champion getting buff. Your passive AP ratio is increasing, and your ultimate base AD ratio, even though it's decreased, the attack speed scaling has actually increased in your ultimate. So if you're building something like Nash's Tooth, it's better for you. And of course your passive, if you're building AP, you're going to get more damage from this. Katarina, this is definitely buffs, but how big of buffs are they going to be? We'll have to wait and see in a couple of days time when we will release the stats related to these champions. Now Kha'Zix actually got some buffs in this patch, even though they're classified as adjustments, because your Q's isolation range, the requirement to actually activate that isolation is decreasing. So the enemy champions can be closer to something next to them, like a minion, whatever it is. It can be closer, but it will still activate. This gives you way more opportunities, especially in team fights, right, where the enemy teams, if they do have brains, the enemy players, are going to be grouped up. Even if they are grouped up now, there's more chance of you actually picking one of them off. Also, your ultimate buff, the actually duration increasing, this is huge. Now, even though you're slow and your W might be decreased, the pre-evolution and of course the post-evolution, well, it doesn't actually really matter that much because it's still going to slow them enough for you to do your thing. And if you really care about like, you know, slowing people in Kha'Zix, just buy Cerulda's Grudge as your first item or something. Now, Lee Sin is another jungler getting changed. Your base attack damage is decreasing and your base armor is decreasing, which means what? Your early game is worse off. Clearing camps, going to take a little bit longer. As far as your actual damage output goes, you're skirmishing, right? You're 1v1ing around Scuttle Crabs. Worse off. Lee Sin's early game is not going to be as good, and hopefully he won't be picked and banned like he is in pro play at the moment. Olaf is getting nerfed as well. Top lane Olaf, guys, is just the king, the Viking of the top lane. Passive attack speed reduced early, your Q's base damage decreasing. Maxing your Q first, which you're probably still going to do. Worse off, your passive attack speed decreasing early game. Make sure early game just, well, beatable, I think, for more champions now. Because when you start losing your HP, it's not as scary as it once was. Now for Rammus, you are getting nerfed again because in like bronze, silver, and gold, this champion is completely destroying the elo, and yeah, your W's armor scaling is decreasing. Now Sejuani is also getting nerfed because she picks so much at the moment in pro play, just like Lee Sin and a couple of other junglers we're about to talk about. So the passive damage cap against monsters is decreasing. Your Q's cooldown cooldown is increasing and your ultimate's cooldown is also increasing. This of course affects top lane Sejuani as well if you're playing her there. So Sejuani is definitely just going to be a worse version of herself in 13.7. Now Thresh is getting nerfed as far as his Q's cooldown refund goes, because if you landed a Q, you could Q again pretty much like straight away after you went in or did whatever you want to do, like instantly. So it was really toxic for the game, and this is just like a healthy change, a necessary change. So well done to the balance team. Now Veigar is also getting nerfed here, guys. So your AP ratio on your Q is now going to scale with level. Your W's AP ratio is now scaling with level, and both of these, by the way, you will get more at rank 5 or level 9 and then level 13 for your Q and W respectively, but it is worse in the early game, meaning that are you going to get to the mid to late game? Is your team going to break before you even get to 2 items? But your ultimate's AP ratio is also going to scale with level, and it will be the same amount at level 16 or rank 3. So these are just straight up nerfs to Veigar. Yes, at level 9 and 13, you might be a little bit stronger, but that's it. Are you actually going to be able to get there now? Are you going to have as much CS because your Q's dealing less damage? These are important nerfs. Now, Vi is one of those other 2 junglers I just mentioned with Sejuani. So your Q's base damage is decreasing. Even though your AD ratio is increasing here, yeah, just your early game is affected. And that's the same for your E as well. The base damage decreasing, but the AD ratio is increasing. So yeah, in the mid to late game, Vi actually has a bit more scaling now. And the AP ratios also increase as well if you feel like going Nash's Tooth Vi. Now, other jungler, Wukong. The final one, the Monkey King. Base attack damage decreased, W cooldown adjusted. So from rank 2 onwards, it's actually just going to be on a higher cooldown. Doesn't really mean too much, honestly. But yeah, your E's bonus attack speed has decreased at every single rank by 5%. So this means less conqueror stacking, obviously less DPS as far as your clear goes as well as words off. So Wukong here, especially with the attack damage nerf, kind of similar to Lee Sin, not as powerful in the early game. Now, one of the more interesting buffs, guys, in 13.7 is to Yasuo. So you have a stronger passive, okay? Your shield. But you're also getting 4 stacks of your sweeping blade. So if you max this first, are you actually going to benefit from this? Like, is this the way the Yasuo players are going to play this champion in 13.7? I'm super excited to see if that's how it's actually going to go, but these are definitely buffs to Yasuo, and I can't wait until he's banned in like 100% of games. Now, Zeri is the final champion here, guys, and for Zeri, your health growth is decreasing, your passive shield absorption is decreasing, and your ultimate's AD scaling is decreasing. Now, your health growth decreasing, the ultimate scaling decreasing, this will affect more your mid to late game, but I think for the most part here, Zeri is still going to be Zeri. You're still going to be zapping, you're still going to be, you know, space gliding around the map. So at least you keep like your mobility and stuff, but of course these are actual big nerfs. I expect her win rate maybe to drop like 2% because of them, but yeah, you will still be able to play this champion. But what about the other stuff? What about like actual items getting changed in this patch? Well, in 13.7, Death Stance is getting pretty much reverted. So attack damage is going down, armor is going down, but you're getting 15 ability haste now for it, which means that you can finally, if you're playing Riven, if you're playing Fiora, if you're playing one of those top lane bruisers, you can benefit more from this item because ability haste is important for you. This is a good change. I don't know why they got rid of the ability haste. And yeah, this is really good for someone like Riven, I think, in particular, because you're going Eclipses, you're Mythic for the most part now. That is not giving you ability haste via its passive like Gore Drinker is. So if you're getting ability haste from your items, you appreciate it even more. Huge for Riven and pretty much every other top lane bruiser, and maybe jungler. Now, Catalyst Surveillance is also getting nerfed here or changed maybe. So the health is going up, so you're getting more HP from the item, but you are going to have to spend an extra 200 gold. So pretty much it's the same as Lost Chapter now. It's just like the correlation, I guess, if you're going Rod of Ages. So 1300 gold, it means you're going to really have to think about your base a little bit more. Are we going to see more mages in the mid lane start Sapphire, Crystal, and Refillable Potion? So they actually make this Catalyst Surveillance 950 gold and more attainable early on? I think we will. I think it's like an important route to go if you're playing something like Ryze, Cassiopeia, these type of champions. And because of this as well, this is affecting both Rod of Ages and Abyssal Mask, of course. So the Abyssal Mask is going up by 50, and because of the extra 200 gold here, both Abyssal Mask and Rod of Ages, the combined gold is going down by 200 gold because of it. And the final change in 13.7, guys, that you really have to be aware of is just to Grievous Wounds. So you know how on champions like who might block spells, I don't know, like maybe Sivir with a spell shield, right? Well, if you're going to block something like with a shield or something like this, the important thing here is that if that ability has like Grievous Wounds attached to it, so if you do have Oblivion Orb or something, that Grievous Wounds proc is actually going to apply to the target now. Now, of course, if you're invulnerable, those Grievous Wounds are still not going to hit you and actually apply to you. If you try to block Grievous Wounds, they will apply to you just like Liandry's applies to them. So yeah, that's like a little adjustment that Riot made to the game. So those are the changes, guys, the actual changes we know about at 13.7. And in tomorrow's video, we will probably do a tier list where we like reveal the hardcore stats for you based off 13.7 and what's been happening in the last couple of days. So make sure you hit the subscribe button for that. And guys, until tomorrow's video, this has been Iggs. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like down below. Bye.